This is a podcast or something like that. Hey, welcome to the Verbal Journal, episode 99. Feeling all right. And this is the one and only podcast that you can come to for all your podcasting needs. I was thinking right as I was starting, the Verbal Journal has kind of gone astray from its purpose, right? I mean, like, if you really go back and listen, which I know we all do, some of those early episodes, they were almost more like a journal, and I feel like now it's almost like, am I reporting the news? Is that what this has come to? It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a conundrum. We're going to think about it today, and how it relates to freedom. Because really, I'm not here to report the news, but I actually do like processing the news, and this is a helpful way to do it. But, you don't want to lose that, not the entertainment value, but you don't want to lose that, because we'll never lose that. But you don't want to lose the, cathartic value, right? I mean, you got to make sure it's cathartic. If it's too much coming in and not enough going out, it does kind of make you wonder, is it a journal at all? Or what's the deal? Hello and welcome, episode 99. So that's interesting. Episode 100 is next week, and that's going to be crazy to do. I mean, really, it's been over 2 years, and now I'm hitting episode 100. That's just kind of awesome. So that's not technically an episode every week, because 52 weeks in a year, 104 weeks in 2 years. And it's been 2 years and a month and a half, probably by the time of next week. But yeah, so only 104. And 100, I'm only 4 behind. That's kind of surprising, actually. Like I said, there's like a little bit of a difference, so maybe like 4 or 5 weeks more difference. So maybe I'm like 9 weeks behind, probably a perfect one every week. I mean, I've been pretty steady on this. Like, I really have. I would be like, oh, I'd miss it, and then I'd do it on Monday. I would like be very serious about this. So, very serious. I mean, I'm genuinely proud of this podcast. I definitely started it first as like, whatever, it's worth doing. Wow, I didn't spill coffee. I'll try to just go for it. But this has kind of turned into an interesting thing where I actually could see it appealing to people, especially the way that I'm now talking about a lot of current events, because everyone likes that. You know what I mean? We get a lot of people writing into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com saying, hey, I like that. Verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. You can write in. People don't do it very much, but I'm learning to advertise better at the beginning. Okay. So let's, I don't have anything in front of me here. I thought I'm supposed to have I'm just staring at this, but where's my script? There we go. Okay. So episodes have been a little bit too long lately. You see this last episode was the public episode. 1 hour and 42 minutes. And that's after the one before it that broke the record for longest episode. That was this one, which was 1 hour and 46 minutes. So that's, too much time, and people are definitely complaining. We've been getting a lot of people writing in complaining about that stuff. So I'm going to make sure we flit through things on this episode because we have a lot. So we are going to be flitting right through things. And let's get that going right now. I mean, that's enough of an intro as far as I'm concerned, right? Did I miss anything? We're going to talk more about episode 100 at some point. I don't have that really on the script here, so I could talk about it now, but people don't really need to. They're like, give me episode 99 before you talk about episode 100. So hopefully I'll remember to kind of prep you on what to expect for next episode. Okay, midsection time. Let's start right off with the word of the week. The word of the week is flit. Kind of to help here with what we're trying to do.
Flit. 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 Flit.
Okay, so flit means to pass quickly or abruptly from one place to or a condition to another. I feel like it could be more than a place or a condition. You know what I mean? They give you a place, they give you a condition. It could be other things. Like you could pass from one. What is not a place or a condition? A time? Well, it is time. It's time-based, so you can't jump from one time to the other. Well, I guess you could if you were time traveling. But then if you're time traveling, if you're flitting through time, would that be because you're moving quickly when you jump between one time and another, or you're doing a lot of jumping between time? Sorry. Yeah, I see that that's not totally relevant. Sorry about that. So, okay, well, great. Let's just do that. I mean, word of the week, WOTW. You got to put it in bold on the script. You know what I mean? It doesn't look important. Okay, so that was the WOTW segment. And next up, we're going to the main segment of the midsection. So for the main segment of the midsection, because now we're in the midsection, I wanted to cover some really big news. I know there's a lot of news coming out, but this is something that I'm sure we've all been thinking about and talking about. So I just wanted to cover it because I know it's on your minds, and I thought it would be kind of a dereliction of duty if I didn't really talk about what we were all, what we were all thinking about. So here it is. Let's talk about it. Caravaggio masterpiece painted in Naples rather than Sicily, researchers suggest. So this is very serious. I want to give it the proper tone and respect. And for everyone dealing with this, I wish you the best. So painted in Naples rather than Sicily. Now this completely changes the game. You know what I mean? Caravaggio heads are going wild. I mean, I look at this and it screams Naples. You know what I mean? But no, this really is so cool. Wow. The color red popping out of the earth tone sort of palette is wild. I saw that a bit in paintings, but with like blue, like royal blue, in these like 15th century, 16th century, I think 15th century, 16th century Dutch like paintings. A receipt indicates that payment for it was sent to Naples rather than Sicily. Maybe that was his like friend though. He's like, yo, could you collect the money for me? Okay, so that's that. I mean, just wanted to cover that because everyone's kind of reeling. A discovery by a young art historian has confirmed the theory while also throwing up fresh revelations. You could say creating, you know what I mean? During research in the historical archives of the Bank of Naples, Vincenzo Sorrentino, who was appointed the curator of 17th century paintings and sculptures at Naples Museo de Capodimonte in September, found a previously undocumented payment receipt for the nativity scene addressed to Caravaggio. I have a lamp called a Capodimonte lamp, actually, that I got from a family member. Lamp. Oh, they might. That part of Italy must be like famous for their stuff. You know what I mean? Because here's the lamp for their porcelain or different things. I have similar lamp to one of these, and I love lamp. It's a reference. Got to be kind of a little bit of a millennial. I believe it was sent by boat to Messina. Wow. This is significant because it shows Caravaggio's first followers in Naples may have laid eyes on the painting without having to travel and worked some of his iconography into their own output. Wow. They're trying to understand how artists influence each other. This would explain why some Madonnas in paintings by the Neapolitan artist Battistello Caracciolo so closely resemble those of Caravaggio. Yeah, a lot of them look similar to me. That's why I'm not really super into this type of art. But all right, well, that's great, and I'm glad we could all talk about that. let's kind of keep the processing going with our next segment in the midsection, which is the grieving desk. So the grieving desk is the grieving segment. Sorry, we don't have desks anymore. We just have the political desk segment later on that we'll get to. It's not part of the midsection, but we do. We don't have desks in general. But I wanted to create this grieving segment, and I've been sort of continuing it because there's a lot to deal with these days, and there's a lot to grieve. And so let's start off grieving together. Billionaire Trump says time's up for lowly U.S. penny. Now, my first thought reading this was, that's a weird headline. That they call him billionaire is just, like, interesting. You know what I mean? I'm going to see if it's still that. Yeah, it is still that. Billionaire Trump says time's up for lowly U.S. penny. Okay. So I thought this was interesting because I was like, oh, he's a billionaire? Like, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. But I remember him not being a billionaire, like back in 2016, I think. But now he is a billionaire. And, but anyways, that's not the part we're grieving. We're grieving it's time's up for the U.S. penny. So I think this happens in a lot of countries. It's actually not probably the craziest thing to do. I don't really know the details, but that's my immediate take, which is why you watch and listen. I definitely don't care. I mean, it might. Yeah, I don't. Let's read, I guess. But anyways, the billionaire thing was interesting to me, so I did look up, and he is definitely a billionaire. In 1 year, this article from just a month and a half ago says, in 1 year, Donald Trump has gone from a net worth of $2.5 billion and facing significant legal burdens to become president and having, thanks to his majority stake in Truth Social's parent company, which grew his net worth to 6.1. So that's a huge, so in 1 year, he much more than doubled in the span of billions. Wow. So he's making a lot of money. You know what I mean? And the one thing coming to mind for me lately with all the political stuff, and I always imagine having debates with people, like I disagree with like right-wing people. And I always think, do you think corruption is bad? Like, we're losing all sense of terms and meaning, but like, is corruption still bad or no? And then what do you consider corruption? Do you consider government officials profiting corruption? Like I'm sitting over here, I'm criticizing, Nancy Pelosi and Trump. You know what I mean? Like, why can't right-wing people do that? They can, right? I mean, I know they can. I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush. I'm not Caravaggio here. Wow, it rose rapidly. This company went public. I thought this was a joke. Again, this happens with a lot of things with him, and that's part of the power of the unreality of their sort of patina that they throw on the classic neoliberal, neoconservative. And like, I was talking about this with my friend, like the Democrats are definitely neoliberals and austerity pilled and trying to like not really harness the power of the government for the average person. But it's a matter of degree. It's a matter of degree. You would not see Democrats doing some of the stuff that we're talking about. I mean, profiting, you would see them doing. But yeah, this is wild profiting. Yeah, I mean. Anyway, so he got rid of the penny. It's funny that Reuters calls him a billionaire in this article. Like, oh, because it's money related? Why don't you call him a billionaire in every article? Oh my God. All right, so we're getting rid of pennies. He tweeted about it. Someone did. Penny was first issued. Come on, I'm having a good time. Why are you texting me saying this segment is boring? My production team is kind of unprofessional, and I'm thinking about turning the sound off on my phone, even though I'm not allowed to contractually. People have been talking about dropping pennies. Life would be simpler without this monetary detritus, Henry Aaron wrote. It helps keep consumer prices lower and is a source of income to charities. That's not the greatest argument, but I'd have to look at the numbers. You know what I mean? Because there are other things that you could probably do for that, you know. And charities are already such a slap in the face to like the role that government could be playing. One idea would be to simply make the last digit of all prices a zero. If the penny were to be scrapped, yeah, right. No, obviously. Right. When I was traveling, I was in a church in Zurich called Fraumünster. And I don't think they pronounce it overly like that, but and they didn't. You paid like 5 francs to go in, francs, Swiss francs, which is about €5, which is about $5. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, francs. Yeah. It's about the same. Whatever. And they didn't take like cash. They didn't take money like francs. You had to have a card because they were too godly. They didn't want to deal with cash. I was telling my friend that, and they go, so they dealt with cards? You know what I mean? Because I guess that is kind of funny. Okay, so anyways, get ready for the penny to be goodbye, and we are grieving that in advance. What stage of grief am I? Thank you for asking, Donna. Donna's my producer. Usually doesn't, they're usually not interviewing me, but... I like the attention. I am in the stage of grieving the U.S. penny of probably premature acceptance. It's sort of like acceptance, but it hasn't happened yet. Next up on the grieving segment, this one's actually more real and actual grieving. This is actual grieving. Tom Robbins, great author. Slightly controversial, but only if you want to overanalyze things or if you want to analyze things, I guess. But a really amazing writer, just like inspiring. I can honestly say his books did change my life. Luckily, my life has been changed since then because I do, like I said, I think there's stuff to criticize, but whatever. But really, yeah, he blended pop philosophy and absurdist comedy. It's true, yeah. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, Skinny Legs and All. Sort of the titles alone start indicating. But anyways, I have such a bad habit of like starting with the negative thing about someone. No, he really just a guy with a real love of language. I remember in one of his books, I even read his autobiography called Tibetan Peach Pie, I think. I remember at one point he talks about, he's like, if you're a writer, you should go on a date with language. Go on a date with language. That was one thing he said. He was like, he really loved language. He lived an incredibly long life. Good for him. He really did it as a writer. He just like did his thing. And wow, 2014 doesn't look bad for 82. Wow. Yeah, a lot of great books. Jitterbug Perfume is very good. Some of them are not as great, but like Jitterbug Perfume is amazing. The first one I read was Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates, which jumped out to me at the bookstore. I was at Barnes & Noble. I think I was like 15. I think I was like high, or I had just like smoked weed and gone into Barnes & Noble. And I saw a book that was like Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates. And I was like, okay, I'll read that. And it's immediately very gripping and unlike anything else. I mean, I didn't read, what's his name? Tom Wolfe. I think Tom Robbins is a little bit of like a more modern Tom Wolfe, slightly more modern. Only, actually, it was pretty much the same generation, I guess. Maybe slightly younger. Yeah. Lots of very memorable things from his books and really left a long legacy. Yeah, Half Asleep in Frog Pajamas. Yeah, I read like all his books. I mean, I don't... Another Roadside Attraction, the first one, very, very good. So anyways, yeah, you can check out his books. I mean, the criticism is, as someone I know put it, he sort of sometimes treats women as exciting objects, And like he kind of has like the women being his muse thing a little bit. It's not full on, but it's like in there for real, and like pretty like you could find a lot of quotes where it's like a little bit of like it feels like he's treating women as like a slightly different type of creature in his like spiritualization and like of like life, I guess. And so I don't. And then there's I remember one or two things in books where I'm like, that character is doing something kind of messed up and it's not fully being understood in the writing. But anyways, he died. I don't have to immediately criticize his writing. But yeah. Bye, Tom. I'm in the stage of, I guess, sadness. Next up, a little bit more metaphorical grieving. Amazon North Carolina workers reject a union, handing retailer win in labor fight. So this was this was a vote among like a little bit over 4,000 workers in North Carolina to looking for a majority to form the union, and it did not go through. So it's the second vote in 2 months. For Amazon, because the Philadelphia Whole Foods opted to join a union, the first at the grocery chain. First Whole Foods created a union last month, and Amazon's trying to get the NLRB, which doesn't even have a quorum to rule, as far as I'm aware, because of the Republicans don't like the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, believe it or not. And the Democrats did a bad job with it too, but weren't actively demolishing it. So yeah, I mean, people were obviously hoping for a union vote victory. It would only be the second Amazon unionized warehouse since a 2022 vote at a New York Staten Island facility. Amazon has yet to recognize that union's legitimacy or negotiate with organizers 3 years later after they voted. U.S. union membership has been in steady decline. The portion of workers in a union dropped to 9.9% last year from 10% in 2023. Okay. Okay, I'm a fan of unions, but I feel like that's a confusing sentence in the sense that it makes it sound like we're worried about 0.1% change. According to the Bureau of Labor data, foreshadowing, and an 11.1%. Okay, so union membership is declining still, but North Carolina has just 2.4% union membership, the lowest among all states. So people were not really surprised. Amazon says, "Oh, they're making $18.50 an hour, which is twice North Carolina's minimum." As if that's one way to look at it. You know what I mean? How much are the executives making is another way to look at it. You know what I mean? There's multiple angles you could kind of take. Comparing it to minimum wage, which is you might say, minimum wage is $9 an hour? That's really bad. You know? Okay, so if you have this vote, so they had this vote. Anyways, one thing this article mentioned was down here. Last year, not that long ago, just a few months ago, workers at a facility in Quebec voted to join a union, which would have been just a second one for Amazon in North America. But Amazon this month began dismissing nearly 1,700 workers in Quebec, which union officials claim is in retaliation for the union vote. So Amazon has said using contractors in Quebec instead of directly employing them would amount to more savings for its customers. Yeah, and this is part of why, as I've talked about before, especially last week, we mentioned a thing where Cigna, the health insurance company, was going to link the executives' pay to the customer satisfaction. You have to be really skeptical of that. And a lot of people who are left-wing or left liberal, like really don't understand capitalism if they haven't done a little bit of reading about it, and we'll sometimes talk about capitalism as like overconsumption is capitalism. Oh, I know it's capitalism, I shouldn't shop so much. Like, it's not. That's not what capitalism is about. Capitalism is about the production side of things. Yes, there's a lot to do with consumption, and there's a lot of discussion around like how you're subsisting on the things your class is making, and then changes in the cost of the final products is raising the price of the labor that you're giving to make similar products, because you're making that labor having to subsist on the products of other labor. And I don't have it all worked out in my head, but anyways, I understand the customers are important and the customer is always right, as we say, but see what a huge conglomerate does when they focus on customer satisfaction. They, it's not more important than the workers. It's really not. It's just like, at best it's equal, but really it's, if you looked at how much people are being affected, the workers are affected by this stuff more so than the customers, who frankly should have to pay more or wait longer if it means people have more humane conditions and are paid better. It just cuts into the bottom line. That's all it is. Amazon is contesting the very existence of the National Labor Relations Board right now in the United States in a federal lawsuit it filed in September. The President, Donald Trump, the Republican, fired several top officials at the National Labor Relations Board, including a board member, which I don't believe has ever happened before and was illegal in my understanding. There was no reason given, and it was an illegal firing. Hampering its operations is an understatement. It can still function, but I don't believe it's able to make rulings, and it's certainly hampered. So that was the grieving segment. I am in the stage of anger about this one, but that's okay. It's like a sort of fiery anger, and it's going to light a fire under me and under you and under us. Next up, we have the new, not brand new, again, I should probably stop saying it at this point, but the pretty new segment. You know it. You love it. It's the good news segment. Let's get into some good news and let's get flitting. Why does that sound like a bad word when I say it? Flit. It's not a swear, right? Like, it's not an expletive, right? Good news. Trump administration ordered to fully comply with order lifting funding freeze. This is 5 days ago, 6 days ago. Things move fast. We got a lot of good news. It's a short article. Still don't have time for it. So district judge, this is how it's going to go, of course. You have executive overreach. You have judicial rulings. Then you have appeals. Then you have Supreme Court. And that's when the showdowns happen. And that's when, the people get ready to communicate their feelings if, things... There is such a thing of... Okay, so here's my like half-baked memory of like the sense of like what the rule of law is. So the laws can be bad. There are things that make laws good. There are things that make laws bad. And, I think I've mentioned, this before, but it's like, just because it's ruled doesn't mean it's right. And so people have to be always ready to communicate their feelings about the law, because that's how you keep the law. The law needs to be responsive to the people, or else it's, or else it's like illicit law. Okay, so anyways, we'll see how that goes with the funding freeze which one was this? A broad freeze on federal spending, because a group of Democratic state attorneys general, it should be attorney generals. This is this kind of thing that keeps normal people out of politics. The Republican administration told states it believed the order did not apply to certain environmental and infrastructure spending, and that some payments were delayed for operational administrative reasons. Like, that is obfuscation, of course. Next up on good news segment, Trump orders curtailing U.S. birthright citizenship. Trump's order curtailing U.S. birthright citizenship blocked by third judge. So third judge said that they were going to block it. An appointee of Republican former President George W. Bush said it's going to be resolved in the Supreme Court. But preliminary injunction prevented Trump's order from taking effect. Yeah, I mean, I really do. Like, sometimes I'm just a lib and I'm just like, you know what? I believe in the three branches of government. I know the government itself, like, you have to be so wary of, but, like, you know, it's a fairly good concept that you have agencies or, you know, sides of a thing, you know, curtailing each other. It's not a perfect system, but I get the idea. I like the idea, and I wouldn't get rid of it in favor of full privatization personally. But maybe I'm biased because I don't benefit from that. So apparently people are saying the order violated the citizenship clause of the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment and a 1898 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, United States versus Wong Kim Ark, interpreting that amendment as recognizing the right to birthright citizenship regardless of a child's parents' immigration status. Okay. Okay. Well, next up on the good news, we'll see how that goes, you know what I mean? And that was just so important to them. This new administration in their first days needed to make a ruling saying that you would not be a citizen automatically because you were born here. That's what was important to them. That's what was important to them. That's the world we're living in the United States. Is that you have a new administration, and whether it's for show or not to any degree, it makes no ethical difference. Even if Trump's doing this, even if the Republicans are doing this like as meat for the base, that's not good. That's bad. You know, versus doing it because they actually want to, you know, control people's citizenship. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, they are now wielding the monopoly on violence, and they are really willing to exploit what that means in terms of their ability to force certain ends to be achieved by any means necessary. But we will see how it goes. Next up on Good News Desk, a segment. Judge temporarily blocks Trump's sharp cuts to research funding because they don't like research. Is this the same thing? 22 states? No? Oh, did I already close that window? That was a previous window? Okay, well. I kind of am curious, you know. Let me just check that out really quick because I feel like, was it the same 22 states? Yeah, here it is. Okay. After a group of Democratic state attorneys, this article didn't say the number, so I don't know if it's the same. Okay, anyways, might be U.S. Judge Monday. Well, let's see, Monday. Yeah, it was the same day, and yeah, I mean, maybe there's different groups of Democratic senators, attorneys general. So yeah, maybe they're saying, hey, can we actually still research stuff, please, guys? Like, you're going to use the violence, you're going to kill research? Of course you are. A lot of the situation that we're in relies on lack of critical thinking. A lot of it. I don't want to individualize the problems because it's not individualized, but that is a individual symptom of a systemic problem, is that a lot of people really struggle to have basic critical thinking. Trust me, if you read YouTube comments, you know what I'm talking about. Next up on Good News Desk, U.S. judge keeps his block on Trump federal buyout plan. So I know these might all jumble together. These are all different. I mean, those two The research funding and the funding freeze, those might have been the same. Otherwise, these are all different. A different U.S. judge keeps a block on U.S. Federal buyout. So, and buyout, I think, is a euphemism in a sense. But they're trying to maybe say, oh, maybe you can't entice the 2 million federal civilian employees to for a midnight deadline to accept the proposal. Temporary victory to labor unions. And this is from 5 days ago. So this is actually not current. We'll get back to this, but temporary good news. Next good news, U.S. judge clears way for tens of thousands of federal workers to take Trump buyouts. So yeah, that's ultimately what happened because it didn't go great. So the good news is starting to and I'm saying it's not going great because I don't personally trust these two guys to make a massive, abrupt change in the functioning of I believe it's the largest employer in the United States. I find them incredibly suspicious for many reasons. And I do not trust them to make a massive change in the workforce of the federal government. So the buyout is one of many approaches Trump and the Republicans are taking to slash a civilian workforce of 2.3 million people that he has blasted as ineffective and biased against him. So it's a purge, and they're calling it that in recent Reuters articles. He has ordered government agencies to prepare for wide-ranging... Yeah, so we'll get to this. This has happened. There are a lot of lawsuits, and billionaire oligarch Elon Musk, of course, has been deputized to head the efforts here. Civilian worker salaries are less than 5% of the federal budget. So if the buyout reaches headcount by less than 3%, reduces headcount by less than 3%, it could deliver less than $10 billion in annual savings, which is nothing. And they do work. And 6% of the workforce resigns or retires each year. Wow, this is really some interesting data. More on that later. So they've dismantled two agencies in the U.S. federal government since just taking office less than a month ago. Elon Musk, the oligarch billionaire, and Donald Trump, the oligarch billionaire, have together led the Republicans in the entire government. I get my terms confused. Federal, executive. It's not. It's a lot of things at once. What they're doing. It's not just the federal. It's not just the executive branch, and it's not just the federal government, but it is both, and it's overlapping also. So one of the agencies that the Republicans, Musk and Trump, have dismantled already in the first month provides a lifeline to the world's needy. And we talked about $500 million of food sitting in limbo, not reaching people. We talked about that last week. And another agency that protects Americans from unscrupulous lenders. That's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and USAID, of course. It reflects conservative ideology more than a good faith effort to save taxpayer dollars. So that's what Reuters is saying. Reuters is reporting Republican budget experts saying that. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the Republicans obviously need to have a new budget in a month, and they're preparing a plan that would cut taxes because we don't need them, right? Less workers, even though that's such a small percentage of the budget. It's making so much news. So if we're cutting all those workers, that means we must not need taxes. Rich people, we could try some trickle down. So the Republicans are making a budget plan that experts say would add trillions of dollars to the national debt. So they're trying to cut the budget while running up the debt. You tell me what that looks like to you. But we are part of the good news segment. But unfortunately, we do have to continue talking about this because about 75,000 U.S. federal workers accepted it as of 3 days ago. And we're leaving. I mean, imagine, you know what I mean? Imagine how you would feel. I can't. I understand. I can't blame people, of course. Yeah, I mean, they're really the thing that's hard to understand if you're still like a liberal rather than a left wing person is like they actually do want to fully destroy these agencies. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't totally realize that back when like Rex Tillerson, that was my wake up call. Like Rex Tillerson, I know this has been going on forever. You have Dick Cheney from and George W. Bush from the oil industry. And there have always been these like ingrained ties between business and government, and it's corrupt. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you could have the rule of law. Hypothetically, if you just had a democratic society, you could have it so people are held accountable for things like term limits, age limits, maybe in serving in the government, but certainly term limits. Investment limits, laws that govern them instead of laws that serve them. It's just we live in an oligarchy, and it's bad. It's not good. It's been this way for a while. But anyway, so this is not going to help, but, people leaving. And then in addition to the buyout, we have mass firings. Mass firings of federal workers, and they use the word purge here. What else are you going to say? It's the purge. So Republican President Donald Trump and Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk accelerate their purge of America's bureaucracy, which is one way to put it. Termination emails sent out in the last 48 hours to scores of government workers, mostly recently hired employees still on probation. At the Small Business Administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the General Services Administration. So these, honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say these are actually good things. You know what I mean? I don't know everything they do, and they probably have some waste, but like they do also good stuff. I mean, I saw the numbers. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has saved Americans like $21 billion or something, and it's only cost like a little bit. Has saved and cost money. I'm just like looking for a little summary article, Maybe this one will do it. Let's see. There's just 20 billion in consumer relief, and it's it's cost so little money compared to that. The budget I forget, it's certainly in the millions. And it's just, so yeah. Something to think about. Wow, they were pretty harsh in these emails too. Letters to at least 160 recent hires at the education department told them their continued employment would not be in the public interest. Wow. Wow. And this is not new. The Republicans have been talking, like, Republicans have wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. Again, they think private industry should do everything. And I'm just biased against that because it doesn't benefit me. They're not biased towards it because it benefits them, though. And these employees are bad because they were new, and new things are bad. South African-born Musk, wait, so he wouldn't be... Would he be a citizen if they got rid of... Wait, they were trying to make it so... No, never mind. That's not how it works. Birthrights, I got a little confused about what birthright citizenship meant. Like, he could still be a citizen. Birthright citizenship just means you don't automatically get citizenship for being born here. It doesn't mean you have to be born here to be a citizen, right? They're not, they don't want to do that. I guess. I don't, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they want to do this. You know what I mean? The president himself and like the Republicans want to get rid of the Department of Education. You know, go ahead and see how that affects the average person's education. They don't, I mean, they would probably prefer if like 12-year-olds were just getting training as like plumbers. I mean, um, wow. I mean, it's a little bit dystopian, this sort of language. The Trump administration is encouraging agencies to use the probationary period as it was intended as a continuation of the job application process, not an entitlement for permanent employment. Yeah, that's a strange way to say that you fired a bunch of people on probation, though. It unprecedented initiative has sown panic and public protest. Um, Yeah, I mean there are about 200. There are over a 250,000 civilian government workers who were hired less than 2 years ago. Wow, with most still on probation. So these two billionaires sitting in the Oval Office are dismantling the U.S. government. Yeah. So of course, you know, the firings come along with the victory we just talked about, where 75,000, they got 75,000 people to get bought out. You know. So Musk has infiltrated at least 15 government agencies, including the computer systems with sensitive personal and financial information. And they've sent workers home. They say, we got it. They successfully hollowed out U.S. Agency for International Development, which provides a lifeline to the world's needy, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Why didn't you write that one out, Reuters? Maybe because you did earlier. Okay, so they fired 70 workers at the CFPB in one fell swoop. Republicans have always disliked the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau since it was created in the wake of the 2008 financial crash. This is another thing liberals might not totally get, and you have to kind of be left-wing to understand. The waves of the financial crashes and the booms and the busts, they want that. Like they want that. So that is something they want. So it's not like a matter of, yeah, I mean, we're not all in the same boat about wanting to reduce the existence of recessions and depressions. They're just like, they just know it's a big game, and if you play your cards right, you can, come out on top. So. And they've got the chips stacked in their favor right now. But, again, all good news does have a bad side. We're just exploring that a little bit now because also some of these orders that, the Republicans and Trump will potentially defy. So here we see FEMA official ignores judge's latest order. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency, I believe it is. Which, when we have like all kinds of emergencies, it's helpful. And a lot of people rely on FEMA, like in hurricanes or other weather disasters, fires, other things. Senior official at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, meaning a Trump administration Republican appointee, instructed subordinates to freeze funding for a wide array of grant programs Monday. This isn't flitting. I'm not flitting right now. This is a very long episode. So they freeze funding for grant programs going back several years, including those focused on emergency preparedness, homeland security, firefighting, protecting churches from terrorism, and tribal security. Yeah, so this is a violation of the court order, someone said. So, we will see whether the rule of law exists still. Next up on the good news desk, a segment. Judge keeps U.S. watchdog official targeted by Trump in job for now. Oops, I didn't mean to click that. So this guy was nominated by Biden, confirmed to a 5-year term by the Senate, sued on Monday after he was fired by Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, you know, the judge's action temporarily blocks Trump from installing Veterans Affairs Secretary Doug Collins to lead the office, which takes in complaints of government wrongdoing and investigates retaliation against whistleblowers. So, another one, they're trying to stop him. He's gotten rid of, 10 or 20 inspector generals, and so he just doesn't like people who do accountability stuff. Next up on Good News segment, judge orders U.S. to restore funds for foreign aid programs. So, federal judge this is a Thursday. Federal judge ordered the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump to restore funding for hundreds of foreign aid contractors who say they've been devastated by his 90-day blanket freeze. Blocks the administration from canceling foreign aid contracts. So the Republican Trump administration with Musk, I guess, is being a little bit whipped into shape. So good news. And lastly, on the good news segment, judge extends ban on Musk's team from U.S. Treasury systems. So on Friday, U.S. federal judge extended a block on these people infiltrating the U.S. Treasury. They say you can do anything but the money. For now. Temporary block, so they can't, do they have to follow that? I wonder. This is a request from 19 Democratic state attorneys general for a longer lasting preliminary. So the different groups of attorneys general they must have all these group chats. They're like, yeah, I'll sign that one. No, not that one. You know what I mean? That's what I assume. I assume it works that way. All right. So cool. Yeah, they're alleging that there's fraud and waste and not proving it, and then they're making sweeping cuts that just happen to align with their ideology, perfectly. So, but anyways, still some good news in there, and I hope we all had a great time on that news journey right then. All right, next up we have the beloved Chief Executive Officer segment, if I want to be sort of complete, where we try to put a good spin on things. And first up we have Ford Chief Executive Officer decries cost and chaos of Trump tariffs. But then, if you can believe it, then they updated the headline to executives plot strategy to deal with cost and chaos. So it was like Chief Executive Officer erasure. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to erase the Chief Executive Officer community by just changing it to executives plot strategy rather than Ford Chief Executive Officer decries cost and chaos. And they didn't even change the picture, so it's still the same guy. But anyways, we're flitting through things here. We have a lot more to talk about. Do any other podcasts go into this much stuff? I thought I heard a noise. I was like, is someone coming? Is it is it a crazed VJP head? Anyways, next up on the Chief Executive segment, maybe it's just that they wanted to put the quotes in. Instead of in this first headline, they said just cost and chaos. It sounds like Reuters thinks that. And then they're like, ooh, some manager, I imagine, was like, hey, put that in quotes. And I was like, ooh, sorry. You know what I mean? Next up on the Chief Executive Officer segment, Elon Musk's U.S. Department of Defense contracts. So you might know this guy as the guy recently dismantling agencies that function for the public interest. But But he also is a chief executive officer, multiple chief executive officers within one person, which is kind of a very special thing. One of his company's chief executive officers, he's not the chief executive officer, I guess, of this company. He just started it or whatever, and probably has a big interest. The company is has about $22 billion in government contracts. Okay. So SpaceX. So hold on. Does Musk own SpaceX? Yeah, he owns an estimated 42% stake, according to the first thing that came up. Okay. So SpaceX's biggest Pentagon contracts include the $733 million National Security Space Launch contract awarded in October to lift satellites into orbit. It's a lot of money. So the total value of contracts is estimated for his companies, this guy who now has massive influence on the government, gets billions of dollars estimated in contracts with the U.S. government. That's a lot of money. And yeah, you're providing work, but you're getting a lot of money. And now he gets to, you could say, kind of police himself, unless someone asserts the will of justice. The contracts demonstrate the growing importance, what's one way to put it, of private sector technology companies in supporting U.S. military operations and national security initiatives. That's really one way to put it, Reuters. You could say, yeah, the growing reliance on private sector technology companies. And then this is some more details. I couldn't get a great source on this, but I think it's real. I think it's just another sort of reporting on similar information, but no, this is more recent actually too, because this is just this past week. The federal government awarded Elon Musk's company SpaceX a $38.85 million contract as the billionaire works to slash other contracts. But I couldn't. Apparently this, do they cite it here? I saw an article that did cite like some report that this came out in, but they're just citing a tweet about it. Yeah, here it is. Apparently. I don't know. So Musk is chief executive officer. I don't know why that other article said that someone else is chief executive officer. SpaceX's chief executive officer. This is a February 11th article. And then this Daily Mail article, which is February 12th, the next day, says Musk is CEO of SpaceX. Who is CEO of SpaceX? Elon Musk. Who the fuck is that other person? What? Who the fuck? Reuters, what are you doing? Okay, hold on. Who is this? She's president and chief operating officer. Reuters, get your shit together. What are you doing? And this is in the chief executive officer desk? You're going to just have a typo where you say she's the chief executive officer? But he is. Wow, she's the chief operating officer, which is not the point of this segment. And I think I called it a desk again. So he's shutting down agencies in the federal government with a very serious face. 4 top finance officials at Federal Emergency Management Agency were also fired this week after... oh my God. Yeah. See, this is the type of source we're in. Oh, no, wait, that's just true. I thought they were saying it in a biased way. That they're just saying a true thing. Never mind. I mean, the word luxury feels very strange. Yeah. And also illegal migrants is not, yeah, no, this is biased. You don't say illegal migrants. That's very imprecise language. Okay. The clock is ticking, though. Popularity of this specific oligarch is going down, so how long will he be able to continue his infiltration? He is moving fast, and he is breaking things. But then he sort of got into a feud with Reuters, I think, because of like this article from February 11th, is my sense. So then Reuters, 2 days later, U.S. Defense Department contract inaccurately represented on social media, said Tom. But I know I'm not flitting. So basically, so what happened? So Reuters is now saying that. So here's what happened. Elon Musk and U.S. President Donald Trump made accusations that Reuters played a role in large-scale social deception for the government, and cited a Department of Defense contractor. And Reuters, so they got into a feud with Reuters. And the contract was a 4-year, $9 million award beginning in 2018 during Trump's first term and ending in 2022 between the U.S. DoD and a division of the Toronto-based content and technology company called Thomson Reuters, intended to protect the U.S. government from social engineering, which is a form of cyber threat in which people are tricked into divulging sensitive information. That's fascinating. Wow. Give back the $9 million to the DoD. Wow. Radical left Reuters. Really? I've been reading a radical left publication this whole time. I don't think so. That's wild, yo. That's the overtone window. That's what he tweeted. Thomson Reuters issued its statement after Tesla chief executive officer Musk, Donald Trump, the Hungarian government, and the Russian state media accused the company on social media of being paid by the U.S. government to play a role in large-scale social deception. Yeah, okay. It was it was given by the U.S. military. This is so interesting. Yeah, it'd be so cool to know more about this like type of thing that Reuters and other companies get. It aims to develop the core technology to enable the capability to automatically identify, disrupt, and investigate social engineering attacks. Huh. That's interesting. So it seems like... in the transaction history of the contract from usaspending.gov, a website that tracks contracts with the U.S. government, funding amounts were dispersed during the contract period for activities described as simulation testing and measurement large-scale deception. Okay, so is it... I mean, what does that mean? I don't know. Thomson Reuters Special Services has been awarded more than $120 million in contracts over multiple federal agencies dating back to 2010. These agencies include the DoD. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money. 120 million, and we just saw it was reported Musk got 38 million just on one day recently. So, let alone, 120 in 15 years. And we did see that, overall, we saw the estimate was billions of dollars that Musk's companies have with DoD. And they're calling out Reuters for $9 million when he has billions of dollars. Billions. That's 1,000 times more, potentially. Close to 1,000 times. So, maybe a little bit less, maybe 500 times more money in contracts with the U.S. government. Okay, and cool. So next up on the Chief Executive Officer segment, J.P. Morgan Chief Executive Officer Dimon derides in-office work pushback, demands efficiency. And I love the word efficiency because it's such a euphemism. We love to call that out, how it can mean anything. Oh, warning, the story contains offensive language in paragraph 3. I cannot wait to get to paragraph 3. J.P. Morgan, but let's kind of savor it. We're not going to flit through things here. J.P. Morgan Chase Chief Executive Officer Jamie Dimon scorned calls from some employees to soften the bank's 5-day return to office policy in an animated town hall meeting on Wednesday. According to a recording reviewed by Reuters, employees at the largest U.S. bank have complained on internal message boards and chats about losing hybrid working arrangements, and one group launched an online petition urging the chief executive officer, Diamond, to reconsider. When asked about the in-person work policy during the staff meeting, he said, "Don't waste time on it. I don't care how many people sign that fucking petition," he said, drawing some laughter. Huh. That's, and look, when you're the chief executive officer, that's sort of how it goes, right? You don't have to, you can do whatever you want, technically. You're like a king in a castle, technically, I think is the legal terminology. The rollback of remote working policies has prompted groans from some workers as COVID-19 lockdowns receded. JP Morgan's call for more workers to come back brought a deluge of complaints, many from back office workers. Yeah, I mean, about 950 people signed the petition. Okay, I mean, yeah. What if it became 9,000? JP Morgan's profits surged to a record in 2024, and its share price roughly doubled in the past 5 years. The strong performance prompted some workers to question why they needed to spend more time in the office. Interesting, yeah. They just, you have bosses needing to show their bosses certain numbers. Yeah. Okay, so, cool. And that's good, because it sounds like good chief executive officer doing good chief executive officer stuff. Next up, we have the, let's close a few windows here, because we have a lot open. Okay, next up, we have the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment. Humpback whale swallows and then spits out kayaker on the Chile coast. So everyone does make mistakes, even whales. They were like, no, thank you. And a huge humpback whale briefly scooped a kayaker in its mouth and then spit them out. And it was caught on camera? Hold on. I guess, yeah, maybe you wouldn't even record it if it wasn't. Or maybe you would. I don't know. Hold on, everybody. We are doing a podcast here. We're going to show that. We haven't fucking shown clips for shit. Okay. Here we go.
To see video to our monitors from off the coast of Chile. This is a kayaker meeting a whale, and not in the way you want to meet a whale. A kayaker chomped, in fact, right there in the water by the whale. In fact, he says he thought he was dead after that humpback whale nearly swallowed him. The young man's dad capturing it all on his phone.
Oh my God.
Here's the moment. There's the chomp.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Young man's dad.
Is this the dad after the incident? He's like, damn, I'm so glad my son didn't just get eaten by a whale in front of me. Like I'm in the Bible.
Capturing it all on his phone.
No, oh my God. He's capturing it on his phone. Oh my God, what is going on? No, I can't watch this.
Here's the moment.
No, what? You're filming a whale eating your son.
The young man's dad.
Okay, we need to watch this in slow motion. Okay, first of all, let's get it in higher quality. And let's get it in slow motion.
Capturing it all on his phone.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the moment.
Oh my gosh. These whales are really good at eating things. Wow. Let's get a mute. Let's watch it once on mute. Whoa. Oh my God. He just keeps filming.
Well,
I'm sorry. You are filming for like multiple seconds after your son's been eaten by a whale. Like just steady cam. Is that your steady cam or is that like on a boat? Someone tell me that. Please tell me that's on a boat.
On his phone.
They said on his phone. So he's
Here's
just
the moment.
Look at.
There's the chomp.
He's just still filming. You just watched your son get eaten by a whale.
Well, his dad was saying, stay calm
Oh, never mind. He's okay.
in the moment, like a dad does. Seconds later, that humpback whale saying, stay calm. Moment, there's the chomp.
And spits
Well,
out
his
there.
dad
Spits
was
out.
saying,
Spit.
stay calm
Yeah.
in the moment, like
Holy
a dad does.
shit.
Seconds later, that humpback.
I mean, yeah, like, and you know what probably saved him was the tube swallowed
dad-
too. I just watched Nope, as I talked about a few weeks ago, and it reminds me of like when you try to feed the alien thing like inflatables.
Was
Like
saying,
maybe
"Stay
if it
calm."
swallowed the tube, then that might have been
nearly
what saved
swallowed
him.
The young man's dad capturing it all on his phone. Here's the moment. There's the chomp. Well, his dad was saying, stay
Oh yeah, definitely saved by the inflatable for sure. Wow, everyone makes mistakes. Next up on Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, Steve Bannon to plead guilty in border wall funding case. So everyone does make mistakes. This guy who is a very powerful ideologue with the words he says irresponsibly, in my opinion. He was charged with money laundering and conspiracy and accused of deceiving donors in 2019 who contributed more than $15 million to a private fundraising drive. What were we going to say here? So, yeah, he said he will plead guilty to a charge of scheming to defraud, and it includes no time in jail, so he can keep podcasting. Honestly, he's nothing compared to this podcast, so don't even check him out. He told donors, apparently, according to the indictment, that their money would go towards building Trump's wall, but concealed his role in diverting hundreds of thousands of dollars to the drive's chief executive, Brian Colfage, a decorated U.S. Air Force veteran who had promised to take no salary. Well, hundreds of thousands of dollars is not necessarily a salary, and if he's a chief executive, I don't, right, we're so close to the chief executive segment. I know we're not in it, but I still feel like I'm in it, so I don't want to say anything about it. This guy pleaded guilty to federal fraud and tax charges and is serving a 4.25-year prison sentence. All right. So, yeah, Bannon, very instrumental role in right-wing media, very influential at this time. Pardoned by Trump for his charges. But these can't be pardoned because they were brought at the state level. So unfortunate for him. But everyone does make mistakes. Everyone also makes mistakes. More animal fun. Sri Lanka scrambles to restore power after monkey causes island-wide outage. Not really fun. I know. I was gonna say not really fun. You don't have to text me. It wasn't really fun. Sri Lanka apparently had power cuts for 3 days. This was a few days ago. Let's see what's going on in Sri Lanka power right now. We don't want to give old news on the podcast, and I don't see a more updated article actually. Let's see. Recent past 24 hours. Monkeys blamed for countrywide. Yeah, I know. Oh, that's an old article, but it says it's from 5 hours ago. Maybe they updated. Anyways, so a monkey disrupted a grid station in a suburb on a holiday. I know, on a holiday. You know what? I'm just going to turn the phone off. I really don't like my production team texting me while I'm doing this. Anyways, I just hope they don't blame the monkey. I think it's, monkeys do that type of thing. There's a human, you know what I mean? Looks kind of like a monkey. Just climbing. You know what I mean? Like getting like a little fruit off the tree, but you don't want to eat that stuff off the electrical wires. So next up on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, DOD fails to obtain a clean audit yet again. So this is slightly old news from 2 months ago. But the Department of Defense has never gotten a audit. The Pentagon has never fully passed an audit. The U.S. DOD has every audit since 2018, 7 audits. The accounting of the agency is so poor that it's impossible to comprehensively assess the agency's financial records. This is the Department of Defense, the largest organization, I think. I think it might be the largest organization in the world, technically, non-governmental. I mean, so, it's just, so they're just, but everyone does make mistakes. Oh, this one says for the last 33 years. So, I mean, with assets at approximated 3.8 trillion, the DoD is surpassed only by J.P. Morgan Chase and its 4.2 trillion as the largest U.S. entity when ranked by assets. According to a GAO office report GA office, according to a report last year, the Department of Defense Financial Management has been on our high-risk list since 1995. Their spending makes up about half of federal government's discretionary spending. So this is what they would be targeting, not federal civilian employees, if they wanted to cut funding. And they'll do only the most ridiculously small cuts to the DoD. I bet you in the budget in 1 month, they will not cut anything for the DoD and it will go up. I mean, its physical assets comprise almost 68% of the federal government's physical assets. DoD has not yet received an audit opinion on its annual department-wide financial statements. It has been unable to accurately account for and report on its spending or physical assets. And there is all the more incentive now for the DoD to get its financial accountability in light of the fact that the DoD's number 2 largest supplier, Raytheon, and the number 3 Was that a typo? Number 31 largest supplier? Yeah, no, it's not a typo. I'm sure that's true. Number 31 largest supplier, Dell, both agreed to pay millions to resolve Department of Justice investigations this past October and November. The Department of Justice reported that Raytheon agreed to pay more than almost $1 billion Raytheon paid to resolve the government's investigations into a major government fraud scheme involving defective pricing on certain government contracts and violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and the Arms Export Control Act and its implementing regulations, the International Traffic in Arms Regulations. Wow, whistleblower from a former Raytheon employee. Wow. So, and then Dell also then was found to be overcharging the Army. And they were accused of bilking the DoD. Yeah, I mean, so you have, but then you could say, well, what if, is it even bilking? Who's really suffering except the U.S. taxpayer? Because you have people getting paid on both sides of this equation very well, and then you just have the U.S. taxpayer funding it. An example of why auditing is so critical for military readiness can be found in the 2022 Navy audit, which uncovered $4.4 billion in previously untracked inventory. Wow. That same year, the Air Force also corrected approximately $5.2 billion in historical variances on its equipment and accumulated depreciation general ledger accounts. In 2022, the US DoD had a larger budget than Russia, China, the UK, Germany, and France combined. And wow, they've had more than 1,200 auditors over 900 sites at 600 locations to do the audit. Wow. Wow. So they are determined to audit themselves one day. But, you know, everyone makes mistakes. I totally get it. You know what I mean? I totally get it. So, yeah, wow. The Department of Defense isn't able to keep a detailed, transparent record of most of the money. It's not even that they're failing the audits. It's that they're having disclaimer of opinion, which means they can't even tell. The financial records are so poorly kept that an auditor can't complete the audit or discover mismanagement or fraud if they exist. Well, I'm sure they must, right? I mean, how could they not? They Elon must exist. Next up, next segment is the acceptance segment, where we focus on acceptance. Luigi Mangione accepts $300,000 in donations for legal defense in murder case. So, you know, this is, wow. Oh, they must have been hurting him or something. So he's accepting money. People have donated money on a website they've raised money, about $300,000 for his legal defense. And, so I don't know, maybe, who knows if they really have evidence on this particular person. Sometimes they rush to, judgment, or it certainly happened before that evidence is planted. So, yeah, he needs a legal defense, of course, yeah. So he's accepting that, and I just thought in regards to this, it's kind of interesting. Polls reveal mixed views on responsibility for the healthcare CEO's death that this guy is being accused of instigating. Some people think they personally, this doesn't honestly convince me at all, but I don't know. Because I just don't see that big of a difference. I really don't. Maybe I'm just being sort of willfully ignorant, but I just really don't. Like, as a guy with, like, thick eyebrows, I feel like sometimes it kind of looks like that. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. But maybe, I'm being thick. Maybe I'm being thick, speaking of thick eyebrows. It's like, is it good to show the victim's face? I mean, I don't know, kind of I would not want my, like, LinkedIn profile photo to be posted if I was shot in the street. Maybe just like a more chill, like me with my friends and family or something. I don't know, but and I'd probably just be like, don't even include me in the article. But so 8 in 10 U.S. adults say the person who committed the killing has a great deal or a moderate amount of responsibility. Okay, that's fair. I'd say that's fair. Because obviously, yeah, they pulled the trigger. About 7 in 10 adults say denials for healthcare coverage by insurance companies or the profits made by health insurance companies also bear at least a moderate amount of responsibility for Thompson's death. So not a great deal. So it's sort of confusing the way they tell us about. Yeah, but I mean, so for both the great deal and the moderate amount categories, for the first question regarding the responsibility of the shooter, and then only slightly less percent, 70% of adults say responsibility is a little bit, or at least a moderate amount, with the issues in the healthcare situation. It's just interesting. Okay, we're moving forward. Next segment is the fatherhood segment. Sorry, this doesn't seem like it's related to fatherhood, but it. I was talking on the last thing we were talking about in the fatherhood segment, which is kind of a new thing. We were talking about Elon Musk's father and the nice thing he did of getting his son a call with the South African leader to try to help his son stop having white supremacist beliefs about supposed anti-white racism in the attempts at decolonization and anti-apartheid legislation taking place in South Africa. And so, but on this, just a little thing about that follow-up around this time, I said something, regarding this act, this law passed in South Africa regarding, helping give some of the land, make the ownership of the land less racially disparate, because, it's very bad even 30 years after apartheid ended. So I said this.
Transferred. Wow. I mean, I don't like why. Okay. I mean, I wonder why they don't compensate the owners at all. Because you would think, like, look, they compensate the owners a little. And
yeah, that was a sort of, there are different articles that emphasize this stuff differently. So I thought that they were saying they don't compensate the owners of the white owners of the land that they're taking and giving to black farmers. And I was misunderstanding because, that's actually a last resort, apparently. Hold on. Yeah, zero compensation is a last resort. I haven't read the text of the law, but this is a white farmer saying that. That's a white farmer. So he's sanguine. Be sanguine like him. You know what I mean? Don't be racist and say it's anti-racist to stop racism. So yeah, that's the follow-up on the fatherhood thing. Also, yeah, so the new South African law requires 17 steps before land can be expropriated. So that, it's not just like they swoop in and steal white people's land, It's also worth noting regarding this whole issue, I sort of mentioned this, but I want to clarify, white people are 8% of the population in South Africa, and they own 75% of the farmland, and black people in South Africa are 80% of the population, owning 4% of the farmland. So they own 4% of the farmland, even though they are 80% of the population. So that is obviously the results of racism. And let me clarify also, because you're like, what if you're like, well, look, fucking if the white people got to the farmland first, like, hey, tough shit. That's never how it works. You know what I mean? It's always like, okay, so here's what happened in South Africa. It's not just like the natural state of things. You know what I mean? So it's the result of the state, the country making those conditions, tipping the scales through laws. In 1913, the Native Land Act, is this from this article? In 1913, the Native Land Act gave most farmland to whites, mostly Afrikaners of Dutch descent, leaving just 13% to black people. Then in 1950, the Afrikaner National Party passed a law removing 3.5 million black people from their ancestral lands. So these are laws of the state using the monopoly on violence to take land and give it to white people. So what is wrong now with the state doing the opposite? You know what I mean? Okay, so okay, well, good. That's that. Next up should be the follow-up segment. You might notice we barely talked about the previous episode. I mean, just now I had a brief thing about it, but really there is not too much to say. I mean, it was great, and we're all happy about it. And that's pretty much it. I don't have much else there. And so that is also we finished the midsection. Yeah, before me just talking about the follow-ups, we finished the midsection. And now we have the main section. So let's go to the main section. Tilda Swinton plans a break from acting and addresses Berlin attendance despite boycott calls. This is a great, interesting article. Tilda Swinton, famous, renowned artist and actor, and in the art of acting. So she's going to take a break, which is awesome. Also, it's very significant that she was there in the German capital. She spoke with unwavering solidarity to all those who recognize the unacceptable complacency of our greed-addicted governments who make nice with planet wreckers and war criminals wherever they come from. She explained why she chose to go to the festival despite the Palestinian boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement calling for boycotts over Gaza in relation to the treatments of filmmakers who spoke out last year. And she said she supports BDS. But she felt like it would be more useful to go and speak, which I totally understand. Sometimes you boycott, sometimes you don't. And so anyways, I just thought that was interesting and cool. That's the main section. We don't need to, linger on it. Let's move on to the so now we're going to the politics section. I thought it'd be good to finally talk a little bit about politics. I feel like we've been kind of ignoring the elephant and the donkey in the room. That's pretty funny. First up on the politics desk segment, most say democracy is important. You know, I like polls. I've been realizing I should make my community posts on the community page polls because those get the most views. People love being able to exercise their will. And, you know, I do these posts and they're like, you know, not a lot of likes. You know what I mean? 6 likes. That's wild. So, anyways. What I thought was most interesting here was I wanted to see whether people supported democracy. Like whether, because I know there are some people who are like, maybe we don't even need democracy. Hi, I'm Peter Thiel. And it's like, oh, right, your companies would actually benefit, and then you would be like a lord, essentially. The emergence of the modern nation state is, as much as it does work in the pocket of business, it also is inherently a battle against business and like private ownership. There's like a tension. There's an inevitable tension there, which is resolved only through, I think, the establishment of a workers' country for the rights of most workers, or all workers, or like the most workers is what I mean. Yeah. In the most issues. So yeah, I just thought this was a little bit confusing. Their question was like the most relevant question to what I was looking for is like, they asked, is democracy the greatest system of government? Is it a good system, but sometimes so that's not useful because I'm wondering, did people think there was a better system? If so, what was it? You know what I mean? If you should say greatest system, like this is not useful, this difference. Greatest system of government, but still has problems. Like this is a really bad poll because you should just be like, is democracy the best system of government? Yes or no? So okay, I guess this is useful. This is what we're looking for. 8% of people straight up don't like democracy. That's sort of what we're looking at, actually. But 14% don't think the U.S. is a democracy. So more people are and there's probably overlap. You know, I think democracy is I mean, I think it goes beyond being a system of government. I think if we could make democracy the principle on all of our organizations, I do think it's better because I think it incorporates the perspectives of many stakeholders and is good. Okay, let's move forward because this is a long episode and this is too much. Politics, with Musk at his side, Trump orders U.S. agencies to plan for large-scale staff cuts. We already talked about this. It's kind of a disorganized podcast. Thousands fired. Yeah, we definitely talked about that. 10,000 fired. Did we say that? What was the number we talked about earlier? Workers at Department of Interior, Energy, Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, and Health and Human Services had their employment terminated. Yeah, wow. And then sweeping U.S. Energy Department layoffs hit Nuclear Security Loans Office, sources say. Sources to the Reuters say that the losses at the National Nuclear Security Administration are bad. Yep, same thing about your employment would not be in the public interest. Wow. That's really in line with the Project 2025 wanting to traumatize federal employees. I mean, this is really a power grab. I mean, in the most brutal way. 45 workers let go from the Loan Programs Office, which has hundreds of billions of dollars in loan authority for clean energy, nuclear, and clean vehicle projects. These firings may slow down critical cleanup work and make workers less safe. Wow. Well, next up on politics desk segment, U.S. IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, responsible for taxation, prepares to lay off thousands of workers, which, by the way, IRS has already been understaffed and underfunded, I believe. During tax filing season, they're firing thousands of workers. Imagine you work there. This is horrible. Like, I mean, imagine you work there and you didn't get fired. It would still be horrible. You're like there's no way these people are all waste in the budget. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not possible. There's no argument being given, and you should not give the benefit of the doubt in that case. That's not critical thinking. Okay, so IRS remains busy for months after the deadline, processing returns and delivering refunds to taxpayers. Yeah. With no analysis on the impact it will have on an operation. The cuts would be made without care to how it might hinder the agency's operation. Oh yeah, that's the point. They want it to not work. And this is even wilder in some sense. Like, they're looking to cancel leases for about 160 locations used by courts and federal public defenders offices. This is part of the judiciary, not even part of the executive branch. It's independently of the executive branch, but it relies on services maintained by the executive branch, including the Government Services Administration. Wow. Next up on the politics desk segment, Republican President Donald Trump loosens enforcement of U.S. law banning bribery of foreign officials. The order directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to pause reinforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act until she issues revised enforcement guidance that promotes American competitiveness. In 2024, the Justice Department and the Securities Exchange Commission filed 26 FCPA-related enforcement actions, and at least 31 companies were under investigation by year-end. Wow, I wonder if any of those companies are affiliated with anyone in the administration. Next up on the politics desk segment, Justice Department orders... Oh, yeah, kind of in relation to that corruption thing. Justice Department orders New York's mayor corruption charges to be withdrawn. So you probably heard about this, because then it went to Manhattan U.S. Attorney and top DOJ officials resign after order to drop Eric Adams' case, which article soon was updated to Trump DOJ's order to drop Eric Adams' case sparks mass resignations, which then soon the next day the news was that they had found someone to seek the dismissal after a bunch of people left, including a Trump-appointed person from a month ago. And yeah, so that's that. Next up on the politics desk segment, acting Consumer Financial Protection Bureau chief tells all staff to cease any work tasks. So this agency is the one you remember we talked about earlier. I don't believe this article mentions it, I guess, but they've saved U.S. citizens about $21 billion since they were created not too long ago. So apparently people think this is a payoff to campaign donors who wanted to be rid of government oversight. Yeah. Musk has previously vowed to destroy the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The agency could otherwise regulate one of his planned business ventures with payments giant Visa. That seems corrupt. And then U.S. Consumer Bureau upheaval leaves consumers adrift, experts say. This is just some experts' take on it. Basically saying U.S. Trump administration just hung out a sign saying cops on break in the financial services sector. White House called the agency woke because they expect people to be stupid. And the agency collects consumer complaints and about financial companies and provides financial education services. Getting rid of this agency means no one's policing the nation's largest financial firms to ensure they're complying with those rules, and laws. For example, new rules the CFPB put forward protect people with payday loans, and they were gonna take effect in March. A majority of payday loan borrowers earn less than $30K a year. They get ripped off on these bad loans, and there's a chain effect. Okay, so, and then even more, the financial firms hated this watchdog, but they might have needed it to some degree, because even these banks, are kind of conflicted, I guess. Yeah, he's like, the only good I'll say about the CFPB is there are consumer protection rules that are good. Yeah. The sudden changes leave consumer finance from mortgage companies to payment apps unsupervised and removes a venue where consumers could file complaints about their providers. Leaves many investigations hanging in the balance, according to industry advisors and several current and former CFPB staffers. Wow. Executives also raised concerns during industry calls about this Musk office's access to their proprietary data that CFPB collects and data. When are we going to talk about? Okay, I'll make sure to talk about it before I finish. Okay. CFPB collects and questions who Musk's team was accountable to, given the billionaire entrepreneur's plans for his own competing payments business. Wow. Huh. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau holds vast amounts of data, including confidential supervisory reports, examination findings, investigative records, and compliance records. That's not the kind of data Reginald used to like, but, it's fine. I mean, he didn't hate it. You know what I mean? He was the data guy. But it wasn't his favorite. But transaction histories for sure. Product preferences, not as much. Industry executives said they were worried about the seeming lack of plan. Oh, yeah. Regulatory void. Yeah, I mean, on Tuesday, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell told Congress that no other federal regulator was enforcing several consumer finance laws in its absence. Some experts said the regulatory void could leave everyday Americans vulnerable to predatory practices, especially from the lightly regulated parts of the financial industry, and erode trust overall. Yeah, I mean, on February 7th, a Friday night, Trump appointed Russell Vought, the Project 2025 guy, as the acting director of the CFPB. Vought, who was also Trump's budget director, was published by the Heritage Foundation that called for the CFPB's abolition. It's a right-wing organization, obviously. Vought immediately ordered a temporary closure of the agency. Interesting. People had to change travel plans who were set to go examine books at banks and other financial firms. People turned off their computers midway through document reviews on investigations. Wow. So these are against companies like Capital One, accused of cheating customers in high interest accounts, Meta, who said it was being probed about advertising financial products, and Experian, which faces a lawsuit alleging it mishandled complaints. There are a lot of organizations currently under investigation that are wondering what it means and if the investigations will be closed. Wow. So we live in an oligarchy. This is not an exaggeration or an appeal to emotion. Okay, next up on politics, desk segment, and we are almost done. exclusive Trump's foreign aid freeze stops anti-fentanyl work in Mexico. So he says he doesn't like fentanyl, but now he's messing with anti-fentanyl work by, his broad efforts that are untargeted. By pausing assistance, we mess with programs relied on in dismantling the fentanyl supply chain. So it's just interesting. Okay, and also funding freeze halts wildfire prevention work, and we also don't like wildfires. I would personally prefer not to have any wildfires. And so, okay, so that's that, so how does it feel? Talking about it at the beginning, the more newsy sort of verbal journal thing. Well, I like it. There's so much going on that I end up with so much to talk about these days, but I still like it. I think maybe I'll tone it down a little bit, but so next episode we have something really special. I said last time that I was going to do a public 100th episode. I might not, honestly. I think I changed my mind. I might just do it for the Patreon and YouTube members, because it's going to be a special one. And, people are saying I'm giving too much to the public, and I agree. So, and why? Just because it's 100, I have to break the pattern of every 3 episodes. Just because it's 100, I am going to, so for episode 100, next episode, I'm going to try something. Okay, and we're going to try something, and I don't know if it's going to work, but it's going to involve... I was just talking about Reginald, the data guy. He's obviously not been here for a long time. Or it feels like a long time. It's got to be, 6 months? It's not a year, but it's a long time. I'm going to try to get him back, and I'm going to pull a Hail Mary next episode, and we're going to try something. That's all I'm going to say for now. I think that's all I need to say, but it will be interesting. I know, even my production team here doesn't know, but everyone's gonna. I have a plan. So, okay. Let me thank the patrons and the members of this whole thing. I really do appreciate you giving me money. Honestly, don't keep doing it if you don't have money to spend. But if you're rich or you know rich people, keep on giving me money. And if you're and if you just have disposable income, you know what I mean. But thank you. I'll start with the members. Thank you, Jaden, Simply Snaps, 39% Weird, Pit Inhabitant, Hollow Moon, Trusty Ghost, Jifa, Eva, Jasmine, Matthew. Wow, it jumps. You can't scroll. It's so weird, YouTube. Get your shit together. Ibnomad1, Maddie, Jeebus the Great. Wow, I can't even explain what it's doing. Loplin, Loplian, Ramon, and Cosmozone. Thank you so much, y'all. I got to figure out how to scroll on the YouTube member list. And thank you to the patrons on patreon.gov. I will start. Thank you to the, what am I doing? Why did I arrange it by that? Okay. Thank you to user MJ, Miles, Brent, Kyle, Madeline, Rabid Dog, Irene, Mr. Moxie, Verbal Gerbil, Linguist, Sam, Ryan, Anastasios, Thulusaurus Rex, Luca, Gunther, Scott, Jack, Ashley, Redgrove, Hugh, Ian, God45er, Switch, Jen, Platinum Sarge, Russ, Caleb, Elemancy, King, Margot, Tom, Burrow, Noah, Matt, MK, Oliver, Ibnomad1, Ice Lack, Miranda, Ruben, X, Emily, A.B., JC, Lily, Luna, Alexander, Alexis, Arthur is here, Noah, and Perpetually Jackson. And I forgot to do this. I usually do this first, but yeah, let's check the mailbag, because now everyone's tuned out, you know what I mean? And now, because no one really listens to that part, I assume. I don't really know. Maybe people do, but now I'm going to check the mailbag, and now no one's going to be here to hear me respond to the 0 messages. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. This was great. I had a great time, and I will see you next week for a very special 100th episode. that's sure to make everyone scream and shout with joy. So, okay, bye. This is a podcast or something